I'm Christine. Welcome to the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast, where I empower you to develop sustainable habits, challenge society, and take messy action. It's time to align with the universe for the full human experience and redefine what it really means to be successful.
It's too good, the secret is out, and wow.
Welcome back to the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast, the official podcast of the dance wellness community. I am Christine, and I am here with Ásta. You're going to have to say your last name for me because I am not John De Palma.
I know. I had to teach him that too as well.
Sure you did.
Yeah.
Tell me your full name.
Ásta Sigvaldadóttir.
Wonderful. And you are originally from?
Iceland.
Iceland.
Mhm.
On the bucket list. What an incredible country.
Yeah.
I have seen and heard so many incredible things. How old were you when you moved to the United States?
I was in my mid-20s actually. I moved, but I left Iceland at 13. So we moved, my family moved to Denmark, to Copenhagen. That's kind of where I really got into dancing. And then I moved, I moved around a lot. I moved from Denmark to England for a little bit, to Poland, to, you know how it is. So,
Oh, totally.
and and then came here eventually. So
amazing. So for those of you who don't know, we had Andrew as our first ambassador. Ásta is also an ambassador for the dance wellness community, which we are so honored to have her here and in our presence and sharing this movement to create wellness and more resources for dancers. So we're going to get into that and why that is so important. But first we want to know, Ásta, we want to know your story. We want to know how you got into dancing and how you became this incredible champion dancer that we all know and love.
well, first, thank you. And also, my sister, I have an older sister, and she was dancing, and I kind of just, I started when I was tiny, I was copying everything she did, and, there was no other option for me but to start dancing.
Does she still dance?
Oh, no. She stopped like very quickly. Actually, she's a psychiatrist. Yeah, she went the educational route. It's a little bit, she's smart.
Well, I'm sure she would have a lot to say about this wellness stuff as well.
Yes, I mean, for sure. She's, she danced until she was maybe around 15, and then it's just been me since.
Very cool. So you started out, I'm sorry, what age? You said very small, but.
Yeah, I started like around 3, 4.
Okay.
Yeah. But I started going to the studio with her,
Which is very normal for most dancers, especially in Europe, Eastern Europe, all of that. They usually start very, very young. You go to the studio. When did you really know that, like, ooh, I really kind of like this and I'm good at it?
It's funny because I wasn't really that good ever. Like, I had a passion for it.
Okay.
I wasn't the best one by any means. I was a little pigeon toed as a kid. I had like physical, yeah.
Okay.
But when I was 13, and like I said before, my family moved to Denmark. And when we they got me into dancing there, and I just kind of, that became my like kind of whole life there. I got really good friends, and I was very close with my teachers, and they really like pushed me, but in a really positive way. So it became all of a sudden something that I don't know, it kind of took over a little bit, whereas back home in Iceland, I had always done it and I really loved it. I was always super passionate about it, but it was never something that I kind of, back there, it's difficult to relate because it's not something you can do that much on a professional level. It's a small place. It's a very small place. So you would have to, it's not really like a job, so it's just a hobby, you know. Kids do it a lot there. Now it's a little bit different, but you know, back in the day
Right.
it was just, you know, you had to go the like school way, you know, you had to
Right.
finish school, yeah, study.
Pick a career, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Okay, so we're wellness, dance, all those things, but I think, are you the only person that from Iceland in our industry?
No, 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 no.
Okay.
There's Gunnar. He's in
Oh,
I think he's
okay.
in Connecticut or in Massachusetts, somewhere on the border.
Okay.
And then, I mean, there have been a couple of us, I think maybe one or two other people here, but not really like for that amount of time. And
Yeah.
then in Europe, there are some people that have kind of moved away
Of
and
course, of course.
Mhm.
What is your favorite thing about your home country of Iceland that nowhere else has?
I mean, my family and friends, but
Well, yes, aside from that.
apart from that, I think the nature. It's not that no other place has the nature, but I think it's a really different connection to nature
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah.
It's a little
It's a lot of volcanic like
yeah,
soil. I mean, I've seen documentaries on Iceland and
mhm,
with the Blue Lagoon and everything, obviously all the touristy things we know, but it is
yeah,
I can only imagine what we don't see. It just seems like such a majestic, futuristic almost looking place that doesn't almost seem real. Like it seems, but in the best way. Like I cannot wait to visit.
yeah, yeah. It is a bit. There's no place like that in the
Right.
world that I have been, at least. You know,
Yeah.
it feels very different from everywhere else. So
Incredible.
I think that kind of feeling, connection to nature, everything's very raw, you know, it's a small place.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's probably my favorite feeling about it, at least.
I love it. I love it. Sorry, I had to detour. I had to geek
Yeah,
out for a
no.
second on travel because I'm all about just
Yeah,
cultural things. And
listen,
it's
it's
just,
definitely a place. If you get the opportunity, you should
yeah,
go. Like, because you will probably not experience other places like that.
I believe it. Okay, back to dance.
Okay.
You, um, you've had, as one does in a long career, as you've had multiple partners. That's
Yeah.
just the nature of the game, right? It goes, and the reason for that, for those who, go ahead.
No, often, yeah, yeah, that's
Mhm.
often it's the case.
Well, and I think a big reason for that, and feel free to add on, is just, different goals, different growth levels as people go. They kind of outgrow each other sometimes. Um, Again, some people's goals change. So you started off, who was your first partner ever?
Ever. Oh God. Um,
Let's take it back.
in Iceland, back home, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a couple of partners back home before really like getting into it, like as a
Okay.
kid.
Yes.
Uh, I had two that were my
Like
main
just doing competitions, just like local stuff.
local, yeah. Then with this,
Stuff. Yeah.
well, with the second one, we already started traveling a little bit outside
Okay.
because you know, in Iceland, it used to be like this. There used to be a lot of kids that used to dance, and we would go. They would actually charter a plane from Iceland to Blackpool, directly to the airport in Blackpool. So we would fly for junior Blackpool.
Wow.
Yeah,
VIP status already.
I
My
know.
goodness.
But there were no flights otherwise. So we like because it was a big
Oh,
community of like kids
that's
and
amazing.
yeah, so
I
that's
love that they supported that, cultivating, because that probably made a huge
yeah.
difference in who decided to choose that path.
Yeah, I mean it's really supported back home actually for kids. Um, we have some dancing in schools, like for kids, so that you know it's not like a completely foreign thing for kids to start dancing, you know, like here in
Right,
America a little bit it's not as introduced maybe. um it's a
right,
little bit newer, whereas back, I mean obviously in Europe it's a little bit more traditional thing that people do.
right.
So
Absolutely.
we yeah
Very cool. So
yeah
then you kind of, you move on up, you've seen Blackpool. So I mean, junior Blackpool. I mean, my
Yeah.
gosh, some people they wait their whole lives to go to Blackpool, and you're going at
Yeah.
what, like in your teens?
11. Yeah, I was
That's
11 when I danced my first Blackpool. Yeah. And I
oh
danced
my
a
goodness.
junior and I was very small. My mom was like, oh my God, like who's gonna let this girl on the floor? I was all dolled up in,
Oh,
the full-on dresses, stones and everything. And I think I was like, 4 feet or something. I was very small, going on the floor. And
that's incredible.
everybody, yeah, it was taller couples and everything. But it was like I remember that experience actually. It was exciting. It was like exhilarating, but at the same time it was kind of scary,
Oh, I bet. Yeah,
Yes.
I bet.
Yeah.
So then you do this for a little while. How old were you again? I'm sorry, when you moved to Denmark?
13, just turned 13.
13.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you have a bigger pool of maybe partner options, more dance
Yeah.
opportunities. When did it really start to hit you that this might end up being your career?
Not until because my parents were very no, I wouldn't say strict, but they always wanted me to do school as well. So there was never an option not to go to school alongside. The good
Okay.
thing about living in Denmark is that they had some like they do in the system there, it's more kind of ingrained. Like if you're doing sports at a higher level, they kind of work together with it. There's something called Team Denmark, and like so it's kind of education and sports together.
That's
And
amazing.
government supports that and gives grants and stuff
Wow.
like that. Yeah, so it's actually it's easier there to do both, but not until I was maybe like let's say I was about 18 when I was about to finish school and had to pick like okay, I'm now going into university. Like I actually thought like I'm thinking about architect or something like that,
Okay.
or then at the time um I started kind of doing better internet like also internationally a little bit with my partners, and I had an opportunity to move to England to dance with a guy there, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'll try that for, some time
Yeah.
and see how it is. And then I just kind of quickly realized that that it was possible to,
Right.
kind of do this thing that is not just as a like a hobby or like a thing that you do and then you go back to school, but you know
Right.
but because I didn't see that where I came from, I didn't know that that was an option. So then I
Right.
never,
You didn't have people to model that.
not really. I
Right.
didn't really like think, it never really entered my mind that I could become a professional dancer, which is,
Wow.
yeah, not until late actually.
That's
So,
so interesting because that's not most people's story. Usually they're like, that's the first thing they see, and they're like,
yeah.
that's what I'm gonna do.
No, I
Wow.
didn't know. Like it's weird because it's all been like for me, just I've been going mostly on instinct when it comes to dancing.
Yeah.
It hasn't been something that I've like mapped out, and I never really planned for this whole thing to happen. It's
Well,
just
my goodness, look at the universe and what it did for
yeah,
you. Like that's
I guess
incredible.
in a way. But at the same time, I think it also maybe takes some of the pressure off a little bit,
True.
because I never really had it like, okay, this has to work. I always had somehow in the back of my mind, if this doesn't work, I can always do something else.
Right. That's amazing. Yeah, that's the best place to be in because then you can go, like you said, continue your studies.
Yeah.
Um, architect, did your parents have anything specific they may have wanted you to pursue?
No, my parents, maybe it's also because of my parents that I have this mindset. My parents never put any pressure on me whatsoever. Like they
That's
never,
amazing.
yeah, they always kind of, I mean, maybe sometimes they gave me too much power
Freedom.
in my decision. Yeah, like just do what you think is right. And
Right.
I don't know. I have no
That's
idea.
funny.
No, but they've always been very, very supportive, obviously, but also they gave me full kind of power to create my own, like
Amazing.
in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's some good parents right there.
Yeah, I've been very lucky.
Yeah, it's good to hear too. I just became a parent. I have a 10-month-old, and so we
Yeah.
are that
Oh, that's
same thing.
amazing.
My parents did the same thing. They were always
Yeah.
very supportive of my brother and I,
Right.
and what we would want to accomplish, no matter
Yeah.
how big or small that dream was. And so that's kind of, what my husband and I want to instill in our son as well.
Yeah.
I want to go back a second, just touch on wellness for a minute, because you were discussing how there's a like a Denmark that allows you to collaborate with high performance athletics and your
Yeah.
academics and really gives you that support. There's some grants and things like that. Do you
Yeah.
feel, now that you've been in both countries long enough, do you feel like Europe um, prioritizes mental health and wellness more than the United States?
Yeah, parts of Europe for sure. I mean, Europe is
Well, right. I mean, Europe as a whole,
yeah,
we can't say
like I
that,
would
but
say like Eastern Europe, not really.
right.
I've also like spent some time there, so that isn't really a priority there. But um, in Denmark, Germany, I know like these places they have a real,
Switzerland, I heard, is really good at that too.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can imagine like most of the, I would say like northwestern European countries, but
Yes,
for sure, Denmark they have a really good system for their
that's
dancers and
amazing.
for their, like athletes in general.
Well, because what I love about what that does for you, if you moved there when you were 13, the idea is that you're getting these habits, these wellness habits and these life balance habits that it's like, please go, push, be
Yeah,
the best that you can be. Whether you want to be in the Olympics or you want to be, Blackpool, or you want to do whatever it is you want to do, but they are trying to give you as many resources and tools to help you navigate, because you're going
yeah,
through now you're a teenager, you're going through adolescence, you're going
yeah,
through all these
yeah,
changes, and you're trying to figure out what you want to do. And like you said, you didn't
yeah.
feel like you had that much pressure put on you, when I think
Only
in
by
today's
myself,
world,
I think. Yeah, like
yeah,
not by anybody outside.
which is
Which
amazing, because I think
yeah,
in today's world there's a lot of pressure. We have social media, there's a lot of comparison going on, where it's like, oh, I
yeah,
have to do this by this age, I have to be this, or look at what so and so is doing, and then we do that. For you to be able to have that support and just be able to have your journey, I think is such a
yeah.
beautiful free space to be in.
I mean, it was definitely also a different time. You see, like
True.
the social media, I think, has made it so much more difficult
Right.
in general for everybody. For especially, I can't imagine growing up with
Same.
this constant kind of back when I was growing up, we would have videos and we would watch these videos, and there would be something, it's not something you did all the time, but occasionally,
Right.
and you would be able to see like, oh wow, this is what people that are good at this do, and but now you're constantly bombarded um with things that even aren't always really real, because we all know that seeing something
Yes.
on a video, like a screen, isn't what it looks like and feels like in reality.
Correct.
So,
And that's not even talking about AI generated content.
no, that's just talking
That's
about the energy that you get from
right.
people
I
and
know
like
what you're
what
talking
is,
about. Yeah.
which has changed the direction of dancing as well,
Yes.
like so much, because now
Right.
today, I think if you, it's more like the aesthetic of what you do instead of like the feel, the energy is
Right.
important anymore. Which is kind of taken a little bit away from, I feel like, the dancing as when you experience it. And now it's what is aesthetically pleasing, I think, is a little
Right.
more. But yeah, back to what you were saying about the pressure, I think, I mean, back when I was, this is probably also part of this mindset, I guess, that I have. It's also because I remember as a junior, even our teachers in Denmark, our teachers were having us, they they took us to the competition. In between rounds, they had us visualize what we were doing. They had people come in, like athletes who spoke about mental health when it came to dancing, and like nutrition and things like this. And so yeah, I guess it shaped a lot of it's really nice to be able to have that kind of growing up. That's not to say that I haven't gone through some major, how to say,
Challenges.
yeah. I mean, we all
Well,
do,
we all do. It's the human
human
experience. We
experience.
can't, it's it. We can't get away from it.
I know.
Okay, so talk to me about that. When did you feel like, I mean, clearly your childhood was beautiful. And honestly, I love talking to you about this because I sometimes get a little shy when I talk about my childhood because I also had a wonderful childhood.
Hmm.
And when you talk to a lot of people, whether they had certain childhood traumas or both parents weren't there or, whatever the story may be, it almost feels like you're bragging a little bit. Like, well, I had a great childhood. I don't know
Yeah.
what you're talking about. Like, then you look back and it's like, yes, no one comes out of childhood unscathed. Yes, there's definitely some
Yeah, of
different things
course.
we acquired that maybe in
I
our
mean,
adult life.
thank God. Otherwise, like we need some level of trauma to be,
To push ourselves,
yeah, learn from. Yeah.
So, well, exactly. So for the first, going past, you did Blackpool 13, all that stuff. And
Yeah.
then I would say when you won maybe your first title or when you hit your first roadblock.
So you see, like when I grew up in Iceland, that reality in dancing for me was so different from the Danish when I moved to Denmark,
Yeah.
because I never really did anything. I never was considered like good in Iceland. I was just a little kid
Interesting.
with a lot of passion, and I was, I just loved dancing a lot, but I also did a lot of other things. I was playing soccer, I was swimming, I was very active. So
Nice.
I had a lot of friends. So there was like, it wasn't as focused. But when I moved to Denmark, there was just dancing, like that was like
Okay.
with my social life, and just everything was kind of just instilled on dancing. And did immediately started having really good results as a junior. We with my partner there, we did Blackpool finals and stuff like that. So,
Very nice.
which was like a surprise to me. But it was
Interesting.
yeah, because I hadn't ever achieved really anything.
Okay.
And this, I think, gave me like a drive to see that I
Sure.
could actually achieve something, which
Yeah.
was, but I've always been a very, I don't really do much halfway. Like I do,
Right.
it's all or nothing kind of. If I'm doing
Yes.
it, I'm doing it 100%.
In,
Trying
in
best at
in
least.
English, we say we don't half-ass it.
Well, I know. I was like, do I
That's right.
say
We
that?
can cut. We can cuss. We're adults. We're adults.
Okay, good. I don't really half-ass things. That's
I
one thing
love it.
for me, that's for sure. No,
Same.
I mean, it's not because it's not because I was born super talented or able to, you know what I mean? I had to work a lot for things,
Yeah,
always.
that's what it sounds like. Because I think a lot of people would look at you and be like, "Oh, that girl, was born with the gift, and there she is,
And
and she
not
just
at all.
cultivated it." But to hear that, and that's what I think is that already, just to come
Yeah.
out of this podcast alone, just to hear that, I think so many people would miss interpret your career when they see you and they're like, oh, there's no way that girl just worked hard and got to the top. She was born with that gift. The
Oh
God
my
gave her a
God.
gift.
Just
And God
pigeon
gave,
toed.
right, pigeon-toed and all. I mean, look at you over here. And there's the common phrase of like, the people who are born with talent who don't
Yeah.
work hard.
Yes.
You've got the people who are not born with talent who work hard. Those people tend to overpass those people
Yeah.
born with talent who don't work. And then you have the
Yeah.
people who are born with talent and work hard, and you're
And
just
work
like,
hard.
oh my gosh, forget
Yeah.
about it. Like they're in, they see us in
Super
the rearview
achievers.
mirror. But to hear that you feel like you had your passion, you had
Yeah.
your pigeon toes,
Yes.
And
I
you
had
had your excitement for life, and you were ready, and your parents who supported you, and coaches, and they put you in the right place, and they flew you out to Blackpool, and they put you in the right schools, and they cultivated what could be, and
yeah.
look what you became from that. I mean, that
Yeah, I'm
alone is a story in and of itself.
super grateful. I mean, I have to say that that it was interesting. Like I mean, not until I moved, like not until maybe my late teenage years when things started opening up a little bit more for me. I just worked with very few people until I was like 18, 19. I didn't really like have a lot of teachers, maybe like four, you know,
Mm-hmm.
people that were consistently we had lessons with. And it was really, you know, it's really nice sometimes, I think, not to have too much information, not to know too much, because
Right.
first of all, you are not bombarded with like, okay, there's just so much to do, but also it makes you a little naive in a sense because you know, you're more able to just go for it.
Yeah.
No.
A little blissfully unaware never hurt
Right,
anybody.
yeah. Exactly.
I
So
get
I
it.
mean, that was kind of I didn't have a huge knowledge base, but I was very, I guess, committed to whatever it was that was, you know. So that
Yeah.
definitely, I think that helped. Like not being put in too many places where there's too many people that have too many opinions, you know?
Opinions. Yes. You were able to cultivate your journey and the way that you were showing up in the world. That's such a healthy space to be in. I'm sure that those healthy habits definitely helped you as you got older as an adult to
Yeah.
keep that mind. Like you said, it's a mindset. It's a way of living.
Yeah. But I mean, I have to say, like, it definitely hasn't always been like that. I also had a lot of, you know, challenges, mental challenges
Yes.
going through this because this is just, I mean, like you said, the human experience, but also especially in our industry that is driven by comparison. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. So Asta, let's get into it.
yeah,
Let's talk
okay.
about it. Tell me. Yeah. Tell me, because it can't be all rainbows and sunshine all the time,
Oh,
right?
but like not by any
She said far from it.
far from.
So when did it really hit you? Like the first time that something really wasn't that easy breezy. Well, I wouldn't say easy breezy because you start off with pigeon toe trying to be a professional dancer. That's not going to be easy breezy. So you've worked hard, but when did you really feel like something hit you where it was like some sort of heavy level challenge or like a measure of depression or something like
Yeah.
that might have hit you?
I think the more it started meaning, like the more meaning dancing
Mm.
brought, or like the the more meaningful it became to me.
Right. It
I
meant that you
more,
cared. You cared. Yeah,
yeah, the more
I get
weight
it.
it had in my life. I think with that development, I think then comes often, especially when you're young,
Mm.
you know, because you don't, it's easy to have understanding in hindsight. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's easy to look back and say, oh, okay, I went through that. And because of that, I learned so much. And now I can be
Right.
where I am today. But when you're going through it, you're, you know, it's it's a challenge for sure, you know,
Oh,
like
for sure.
just the fact with like, let's say body images, of course, like I think especially every female dancer is gonna
Hmm.
go through this at some point. Um, but also just kind of, you see, when I grew up, or the generation that I competed against, you see, a lot of them now, you know, at this point, I'm starting to compete a lot against the Eastern Europeans and kind of like, you know, Italians, like people from these countries that where exactly that what we spoke about earlier, that they can, you know, they have somebody, like they have role models from the get-go, they understand
Yes, yes, yes.
the thing, and it's you're already
They're
driven.
being trained by former champions.
Yeah,
It's a line of
a
succession.
different level in a way, you know,
Totally.
you're you see this, you have a visual in front of you of what, you know, and I think a lot of the kids that I competed against, they also had their parents, they either they were kids of teachers, or their
I see.
parents somehow pushing them.
Right, right, right.
Whereas my parents were, "Oh, yeah, just do whatever you want to do, we'll be here."
That's it. Cheerleaders.
Yeah, exactly. You're always amazing, it's great.
That's it.
But they definitely, I mean, they did go like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" But
Right.
but yeah, so that's when I felt like the biggest hurdles, let's say, mentally, like started to realize um that this is difficult. And that, like, I often thought like, okay, now I'm gonna be done, and I'm gonna go back home, and I'm just gonna continue go to school, you know.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that came to my mind many, many times. Especially I lived 2 years in England. I moved there to London as a 19-year-old, and we lived, rented these rooms, and we just spent all our money on like lessons. And
Coaching and yep.
yeah, I used to work for this dressmaker, and but it was definitely um I mean, like I said before, in hindsight, it was a great experience. But
Of course.
in the moment, you're practicing with all these top athletes, and
Right.
it's kind of like, or top dancers, and you're comparing yourself, and like, oh my God, I'm not gonna be like that ever. So, you
Wow. So
kind of,
it brought on some self-doubt,
oh,
some anxiety, all these things, right? All of these feelings you really hadn't felt.
yeah.
Because what I hear, and we keep bringing it back, but I hear like when you were younger and you were pigeon-toed, I feel like that was not a problem for you. It sounded like you were
No,
like, no, I got
I
this.
didn't,
Like,
I
I got
didn't,
passion. I can do this.
yeah, I didn't at all. Like, I didn't think about it, because
Right.
like I said before, because it wasn't something that I was like, oh, I'm gonna be a professional dancer.
True. You
Of
didn't have
course,
that
I was
goal
like,
yet.
yeah,
Right.
I was
So
afraid.
once it got
I was like, I want to
serious,
win, so let me fix
yes.
it. It was more
Yes,
like
yes, yes.
that.
Once it got serious, you cared more.
Yeah,
That brought on all these,
yeah. You get
self-doubt,
exposed to all these other,
anxiety. Yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You get compared. The
Sure.
practices were crazy. We'd go into the studio, and it was just, this was back when like Semley was still around in
Wow.
London. Yeah, so like this was like the last years of that studio. And and it's not even like the pressures, it's more from the like other dancers. It's like everybody's checking each other out.
Yep.
And it's something that you carry. Of course, we all like have it inside ourselves, that we're comparing. So
Yep.
I think this was kind of the biggest challenge, like not biggest challenge, but this is when it started.
Yeah.
So, then along with that comes, the kind of, let's say, not eating part, or like, yeah, these things, okay, I gotta lose weight. I gotta do, all
The
these,
body image.
yeah, that,
Mhm.
and, like, I don't look good enough. Okay, we gotta do something about that, like, it's,
Right.
it's, and also I have to say our industry is driven a little bit by, um I want to say manipulating, but there's a part of it that is
Perfectionism.
that makes you think, like,
But
that
I
that
see what you're
makes
saying.
you think that suffering is a good thing, like that you have
Mhm.
to, the more you suffer, the more you go, like the more you go through, the harder you work, the more time you spend in the gym, the just at least at that time, it was very much driven in that way. So it wasn't like really a healthy,
The
I would
more,
say,
so you're saying the more
environment.
you suffer, like at that time it was the more you suffer, the more you work out, the harder you work, the more you'll be successful.
Yes, yeah, the more rewarded you will be. Yeah. So it's kind of like that was kind of um I feel like that was the
The narrative.
the narrative at the time. Yes, where I feel like that probably has changed a little bit now. I don't.
So I would hope so. I think
Yeah.
yes, it has become better, and I
Yeah.
think it's become better by the fact that like for a visual, we just ran out of train track. Like there's just nothing left to
Right.
give. And so you
Yeah.
have some people that are
Yeah.
like, listen, I
Yeah.
just can't, this is not a sustainable way to live, so I
Yes.
can't do this anymore.
100%.
But that again, my heart is glowing right now because this is exactly what we're here to talk about
Yeah.
is why does it have to be that all or nothing kind of vibe? Like maybe
Just,
back in the day there weren't any resources or I would say even what you brought on a very interesting point, models, right? Examples, mentors to be like this is how it can be done. And all that they were doing, because if you look at the generation, before, that's all they did. They are teaching what they know, and you don't know what you don't know. So they're teaching work hard, suffer, pain is,
yeah.
beauty is pain, all of these things.
Yeah.
And now I think we're starting to have some models and mentors and professional dancers that are like, oh my gosh, yeah, I've been working with a sports psychologist this whole time. I'm not just doing this and like,
Yeah.
I've been working with a physical therapist. I've been working with a mental therapist.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it's like, well, wait a minute, hang on. How come you're not sharing that information?
Yeah.
Because people think you're just doing the same thing everyone else has done, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's getting better because some people are choosing, they're like, I don't have any other choice. But I think what's not getting better is the conversation surrounding it.
Yeah. No.
It's not happening still as often as I think it should.
I mean, I mean, like, let's say you have a platform here that you're talking about it. I don't think there are many other platforms. I
Right.
do also feel there is a little bit of a scarcity mindset that,
Okay.
I'm not going to share what works for me, like, in a
Ah,
way. There is that,
not a, yeah,
I
I didn't even think
win,
about that.
so I'm going to keep it to myself.
Right.
It's
Right,
it's
right, right.
business. It's all there is that aspect to it too, I
I
think.
get that.
But I do think, don't you think it's a little bit on just a general level in the world that there are changes like this happening now, like that,
Yes. Yes,
it's
I do. I do. And I think that's why now I feel comfortable creating something like this is
yeah.
because I come from that. I'll tell you exactly how this started real quick is I had outside of the dance industry, I grew up in the dance world. My dad owned a dance studio. I grew up dancing and all the things. And then
Yeah.
outside of the dance world, I ended up becoming a high performance coach. So I worked with CEOs, I worked with athletes who were
Oh,
trying to create this work-life balance, but
yeah.
also create a lot of systems in their life and then remove a lot of that self-doubt of like imposter syndrome, I'm not good
Right.
enough, that kind of thing.
Right.
So my business partner and I, she works a lot of the psychology, I do a lot of the logic, and I started posting about this. I started this about, I would say 6 years ago, and
Yeah.
got really serious in it, created an academy online and everything. And then a lot of our dancers, because my husband is a photographer in the ballroom industry, and then I would dance every now and again. They're like, wait a minute, like at coffee shops, they would be like, hey, I have a question for you. So I'm thinking about retiring, but dance has been my whole identity, my whole life, and I just don't know what to do. And all of a sudden, we're having this deep podcast conversation while we're waiting for coffee between heats, and I'm like, oh, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa, hang on. So like, I want to help you, but this is not the place for that. So like,
Right.
let's sit down, let's have a
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
conversation. I would love to help you. But also I didn't quite know what they were looking for. I could help them be like, cool, let's go into the academy, let's do all the stuff outside. But my academy, I realized, wasn't targeted towards dancers and their specific needs. It
Right.
was targeted towards high performance people, right? High achievers. So
Yeah.
dancers are high achievers, athletes are high achievers, but it didn't target specific identity issues when it came to
Right.
dance being their identity. It didn't
Right.
target, like you said, this comparison thing going on. We talked about that, but we didn't talk about it in the dance form. And I thought to myself, huh, there really is nothing like this for dancers. Dancers don't have something that they can tangibly, they just need to go find a therapist or work with a sports psychologist or whatever
Right.
but their
Yeah.
coaches are not helping them in this mental aspect. Maybe they're being a shoulder to cry on every once in a while, but
Yeah.
they're not really guiding them
On a
to
professional level.
right, on a professional level or in a sustainable way. They're like, hey, listen, we got a competition next week. Like,
Yeah.
let's go grab some lunch. Let's talk about it, but we got to get back to work. You know what I mean? So it's not very, it was very band-aid effect is what I saw a lot in the dance industry.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, gosh, if I had more of this, or my brother decided he didn't want to be a professional dancer because he was like, what? I don't understand. It's like, it seems like a full-time stressful job. And like, what am
Yeah.
I getting out of it? He didn't feel that there was any
Yeah.
benefit.
Way
And
back.
so, yeah.
Yeah.
And so he just felt like, what am I? It just, everyone seems stressed out.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
like, why would I do this?
Yeah.
And so maybe if we had these resources, my brother and I would have gone a different path. I don't think that our paths have not gone good ways. My brother's now, an actor
Yeah.
in LA, and I'm doing my thing and it's great. But
Um,
but I'm thinking to myself, why can't we tell people, please go be a champion dancer, do all the things. You said the first thing that rings in my mind is you said, I just love to dance.
yeah. Yeah. That was
And
kind
just
of
loving to
driving force.
dance,
Yeah.
that's the root of it all, isn't it? And I think we
Oh, yeah.
forget when all of these high stakes come into play.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think there's a lot that could be done in our industry, not only from a mental health perspective, but I think, there's a lot of, I mean, let's say there hasn't been any structure. There's no,
Right.
there's just teachers, there's judges, and there's like, you do what you want to do, figure it out, you know?
Right.
So, I think also what's important to a certain extent is also kind of, um, especially in a place like America where there is a lot of opportunity, is to, I mean, talk about obviously this aspect of it, but also there's the financial aspect of it that I think that, um
Yeah.
that is just as important, because essentially what you have to do with dancing, it has to be also a way of,
Yeah.
it's your,
Livelihood. Your livelihood.
it's your livelihood,
Right.
right?
The
So
sustainable part financially is
right.
never
It's,
discussed. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, okay, so what can you do to, like, and most of the people that have come here also from, let's say, other countries, you know, we have to figure out a lot of things for ourselves in the beginning. We don't really know
Yeah.
anything. So
Right.
like teaching people just how to, even just, have a credit of 401k, like how to invest, just do these things so that you
Oh,
don't.
I mean, that's even going further than I would think. I'm thinking there's no
Yeah,
retirement, there's no health
right. No,
insurance.
but yeah, but
Like
like,
the basics are not even there.
but the thing is also like, in order to have some sort of a fair system in this, like people have to be, they cannot depend for too long on just teaching competitors, because that's another
Yeah.
thing, like, because if that is the dependency on this, we'll always have an unfair system,
Right.
if that makes sense. So like,
Yeah.
if there is a structure that, you don't have to, I mean, I don't know. I don't have any answers to this.
No, but I love where you're going because these are common
Yeah,
concerns that are not being discussed. But when
yeah,
when I start to say these out loud to people, they're like, "Oh yeah, I guess we don't have that. Oh yeah, I never really even thought about that." Like a
yeah,
lot of people in our industry, which I need to do more of myself, but there's a time and a place for it. They're living in the now. They're
yeah,
thinking, here I
100%.
am.
Yeah,
I've got all these students, or I'm doing well, or I'm thriving, or I'm a Blackpool
yeah,
champion, I'm this, that, and the other. And then they don't see what happens if they get injured and
yeah,
their whole career is gone.
yeah,
If their clients, decide to stop dancing with them,
yeah,
if
yeah,
the studio shuts down, if
yeah,
insert disaster here. And then what happens? There's no insurance, there's no
right.
retirement, there's no
There's no
401k, there's
thing.
no
Yeah.
nothing. You have
But there
nothing.
can be,
There can be.
if you're
Yes.
taught from the get-go
Yes.
how this can work. But also, like what I noticed for myself is, and I think, I mean, obviously anything competitive is going to be like this, when you're
Yeah.
competitive, what you want to do is you want to win, right? So
Right.
you go to work with anybody, and they, that's kind of the given. So you want to win, right? This is your
Right.
end goal. You want to win. But why do you want to win? What,
Mm.
like, what is it going to bring you? What, there's,
What is your why?
yeah, like,
Uh-huh.
because you want to win, and then what? What is
Then
winning
what?
give me? What, there's a lot of, I feel
Mhm.
like dancers could ask more questions. They could be, oh, if I'm
Mhm.
gonna win, am I then gonna be, I'm gonna earn more? Am I going to, what is gonna be the benefit?
Whew. Say
There's
that louder for
whole
people in the
line.
back. Dancers can ask more
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah, there
Oh,
should be
good.
a system behind this that should be structured somehow, also to attract more, because
Agreed.
at the end of the day, it's kind of it goes through, it doesn't
Or
really,
even job security. In
yeah,
other industries, you have what's called tenure,
yeah,
and you've worked for so long now, you've earned it.
right,
There's not considered any job security, even if you own a competition or you're a judge.
yeah.
COVID happens, everyone lost their jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we're not
Yeah,
expecting, COVID is like a
yeah, it's a one-time
crazy
thing. Yeah.
one-time thing, but the idea is that it just goes to show, I think a lot of people were just thrown aback of how little systems are created in our industry for that. I
Yeah,
love that you've talked about the financial part, because that is something that when we talk about wellness, a lot of people think mental and physical, right? And we have 10 practitioners in the dance wellness community that cover all aspects of mental and physical. But I have a financial efficiency coach. And when I say mental, physical, and financial, they go, "Oh, financial. I never
yeah,
thought about that." Or
yeah,
maybe they thought about it, but they didn't know how to attack it.
yeah,
And then on top of that, we have two coaches that work, one with creating a six-figure earner dancer, right? So
yeah.
helping a teacher cultivate and make this really a sustainable job, and then taking that money and investing it. And
Yes.
then, right, because then you could talk to our financial coach and she invested. And then you have another one of our coaches who does business and branding, which is branding yourself to create maybe something outside of dance. Because as we see on Dancing with the Stars and all these amazing things that have happened throughout the world, ballroom dancers, when you tell people you're a ballroom dancer, they're like, "Oh," right? Who they know nothing about our industry. All of a sudden it's like, "Oh," they don't know what Blackpool rhythm champion
No, no,
means.
no.
But when you say you're a ballroom dancer, they're already like, "Wow, that's so interesting," right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
now that's marketable, and so by understanding how to brand that and how to create something outside of that, or using the tools, I say this all the time. Dancing taught me so much more than just dancing. It taught me
oh,
how to
yeah,
right, how to
yeah,
speak, how to be more confident, how to
yeah,
work a room, and so using those skills and building something outside of that as well to have a
right.
secondary, not even a fallback plan, just another avenue of income.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean,
diversifying that.
it's an essential part of it, like mental health is not only just what goes on in your mind, it's also your body and your, like, all of it. It's the,
Yes. It's an
financial,
ecosystem of
yeah, yeah,
wellness.
yeah, exactly. So I think I mean, we can sit here and talk about it all day, but it's
Yes,
hard to make those changes because,
it is.
yeah,
This is a
I don't
start.
even, yeah, I don't even
This is,
know
yeah,
how that would be done, but
totally.
it could be done. But I think that, I mean, yeah, having the conversation is definitely the
Access and
start.
access to resources and practitioners, people who
Yeah.
can actually help and understand how to help. And what's cool about all our practitioners, they're all dancers as well. They all come from
Oh,
they've done dance in some way,
yeah,
shape, or form, and they understand how to. Our financial efficiency coach, she works with clients who are non-dancers, but she also was a dancer and understands how to work with dancers. I want to talk a little bit about, because you started in Latin.
yeah.
why
Oh,
did why did you choose Latin? And then everyone now knows you as like the most amazing rhythm champion. Like,
ah,
you've created almost two careers for yourself. Talk to me a little bit about that.
it's funny because I did Latin for over 30 years and rhythm for 2 years.
I know. It's nuts. It's nuts.
Um, so Latin was, it's interesting because as a kid I did better in standard, and I had also a partner who was a better standard dancer in junior, but that was like that's where we did well.
Yeah.
And then some things shifted in me when I started getting into youth. Like I remember like around 17, I was just like, I'm done with standard. I don't want to do that anymore. So I went like all in on Latin and just
Interesting.
kind of just did it from then on, you know. It was more something that, not that it was actually, I think probably physically standard may have been better for me in many ways.
Yeah.
Like just my body, I had, you know, it's hard for me. I have, you know, my hips and, you know, it's just spine. Certain things about my body are not really ideal for Latin.
Interesting.
Um, but I don't know. I just had to go. Like I said in the beginning, like it's a little bit more of an instinct. I went with a feeling, you
Yeah.
know.
That never stopped you. I love it.
Yeah, I think it was just, yeah. Not that I, you know, I of course I think back sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know if I chose the easiest path, but Latin for sure was just something that I enjoyed a lot. You know, the music,
Mhm.
the feel of it,
Yeah.
partnering, all
Same.
that stuff.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, I I don't know. It was just I don't even know how I ended up here, but and then Andrew kind of came along, and it was I mean, listen, after I split with Andre, I mean that was like a really rough breakup for yeah, split for me. So I wasn't even thinking I would dance again. It wasn't like
Interesting.
I was already, you know, thinking about retiring back then with him, but we also had a personal relationship, so it was a little bit different.
Right.
Um, but in that sense, I was when well, let's say when Andrew came along, it was my teacher had said to me, like, just try to dance with someone, you know, just have a tryout with somebody, see how you feel. And I did, and I really enjoyed dancing with Andrew, but the tryout was in Latin. There was not a thought in my mind that was going like, oh, I'm gonna dance rhythm now. Like it didn't even,
Because he did try out with you in Latin
yeah.
because he came from rhythm.
Yeah, so he'd already been doing rhythm, and then I don't know, I just like I just got to try out with somebody just to see, you know. And I was like thinking who's in the area. I'm like, oh, I always really liked Andrew's dancing, you know. And we got together and it felt really really good. The feel of it just felt like we felt familiar to each other in movement, you know,
Hmm.
like. So I think that was kind of, you know, a surprise to me to
It
be
kind
like,
of
oh,
reignited your passion a
yeah,
little.
I was like, oh, it can feel like this feels really nice. Like I didn't think it was gonna, you know, feel
Yeah.
this comfortable in the first tryout.
Right.
It's like, well, I actually really like this feeling. Um, and then him and yeah, well, he was like, I'll have this tryout in Latin, but can you just, you know, can we just try a little bit of rhythm? I'm like,
That's
okay,
fine.
lead me through something, and then he
Yeah.
led me through something, and you know, we spoke about it a little bit, and then you know, I was like, um, I think this may not be the dumbest idea in the world, you know. So yeah, I decided to go for it.
Yes. Go, Andrew. Way to shoot your shot.
Yeah, he just kind of lured me in a
That's
way
awesome.
into it. Yeah, no, but it was really it was really, again, it was a feeling, you know, like it wasn't, again, it was like an instinct that I thought, you know, I enjoy this I like the feeling. And I also thought, you know, like there was a part of me that had done Latin for so long, and I just felt like, I don't know, I know how that works, you know, like rhythm felt like a little bit more in the moment, more of what I wanted to do. I wanted to stay local. I didn't want to travel too much to
Right.
didn't want to work with a billion people. I just wanted to stay in my kind of bubble and dance if I was going to do it, you know. which is
Totally.
what we did. We just worked with
Amazing.
a couple of people and just stayed and did our own thing. So that kind of that
Yes, it was very hush hush. When a lot of people who were huge fans of you when you were with Andre and huge fans of Andrew before when he was in rhythm as well, and then all of a sudden we heard that you guys were going to be dancing together. Let me tell you, the front row seats that people needed to reserve to see you dance for the first time. And when those videos came out, who couldn't be at the comp, how
yeah.
viral they went, you're for those who are not in our industry, even for those who are in our industry and were not aware, you were under a rock because people were talking about you. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
in the best way. We were like, "What did I just witness?"
Yeah. I mean, I've always been super good. I guess I've been good at not like just allowing people to talk, and not let
Yeah.
it reach my so like I don't know. I kind of I don't- I like the most when there's a little bit of a stir, to create a bit
Yes.
of a stir, like shock people a little bit, make it interesting.
It was
Um,
great.
so no, it
You guys came in and you went out with the most grace and surprise and excitement and just overall love for your sport. It was just the coolest 2 years to witness, I can truly say.
oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we just had such an enjoyable partnership. It
it
was
shows.
it was really, we just created our thing and we were on the same page when it comes to so many things and it was just truly enjoyable to work together and just to have, because it's always going to be hard to push yourself on a certain level, it's never easy, but it just helps because I think we both had quite difficult partnerships before
Yes.
in many ways. So it was just, it was such a different feeling, which is really nice to be able to end your career in that way that you just
Oof.
enjoy,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely. Back to the root of, just 4-year-old you, just
Yeah.
excited about it.
Yeah.
Andrew, so two things. Andrew told us both, obviously about his previous partnerships and kind of, those were some of the challenging years for him. Just on a personal level, not even because of the partnership or whatever,
Yeah.
but because we won't want
Yeah.
to put anyone under the bus, but just in the sense of just his own personal. And then the decision to retire from his perspective. I would love to hear your perspective as well. When you guys came into this partnership together, both coming from something that was, quite shaken, how healing did that feel?
Well, I mean, you see, when you come from something like that, it takes a while to recover,
Yeah.
so you're taking it day by day, I guess. It's kind of, I think it's what it felt more like. It wasn't like an immediate healing feeling. It felt like, there was like um a little bit of a holy place. Like we had this little bubble of our own that we could kind of be in and just do our thing. And while we were both going through a lot, I think,
Yeah.
and kind of after some time you realize, oh, actually this has really like been such a substantial thing for me to heal, to see
Yes.
things in a different way, to kind of just to have this experience that is
Well,
um
and have someone that also understands what you're going
yeah,
through.
yeah,
Like I can only imagine that parallel,
yeah,
situation for you guys to come together and then try to decide if you want to even do this anymore. Because
yeah,
for those who don't know, again, I'm speaking to people who don't dance, but I'm also because I don't know who's listening, but mostly I'm speaking to people who dance.
yeah,
When you're in a partnership, there can be good, there can be bad, there can be highs, there can be lows. There always is. It's also the human experience, but you're really working with another person and their feelings and emotions. And like you said, a lot of the pro partners, have personal relationships as well,
yeah,
which kind of gets messy. There's a lot of blurred lines. And so then you just kind of turn around, you're like, how did we get here? Because I don't think
Yeah.
there's ever an intention of people to hurt each other. I think it just happens because of all
Yeah.
of this pressure and all of these things that happen. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And then we turn around and it's like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I don't even want to be here, but I love to dance. Like, where did that joy disappear to? It
Yeah.
kind of it
The,
kind of yeah,
yeah, the tricky thing about that is really when you are with someone, let's say that there aren't many other just anything in life where you like, I wouldn't say sports, or you can say professions, I guess, where you both are so involved with like the person that you're with
right,
is also like, I mean, most of us obviously start out as some kind of, we dance together, and then that develops into something more.
right,
But the thing is that um it's you're not a one layer of a person, right? You're not
right.
like, you are who you are as a dancer doesn't necessarily, you know, is not necessarily the same person that you're in your life, or you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
there's layers to you, right? So
Absolutely.
it doesn't mean that you're always compatible with the person that you're dancing with, even if you're compatible in dancing in life. And I think that that's why it gets so tricky, because we kind of, like you said, we blur the lines. We don't
Mm-hmm.
really understand when we're so all consumed with just dancing that, that this may not be the best person for us in life too, And
Right.
so,
Because there's the attraction because I really like this person and they're really a person that's good for me? Or
yeah,
is it just because I love dancing with them so much and we're
yeah.
winning and everything's going great? And so it's like
I mean, yeah, it is
everything gets so blurry.
really
Yeah.
complicated. And I think also when, I mean, both me and Andrew, we both had very long-term kind of partnerships. So you also change so much, and
Yeah.
you don't necessarily,
Yeah.
grow together. You can grow in different ways.
Correct. Yeah.
So that was really for us, I think, was also just super nice to have a partnership and just a friendship, you know.
Friendship.
Uh,
Yeah.
we didn't have our personal lives involved in this. We were just, that was something that we just could heal on the side. And then we just had our professional lives and just a really good friendship. And that's been so valuable, I think, for both of us, where,
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
priceless. It really is. It's
yeah,
absolutely priceless. That's something that really comes along very, very rare
yeah,
especially in
yeah,
this industry.
I think so.
Your decision to retire.
Yeah,
Obviously, Andrew has mentioned, for those who want to listen to Andrew's conversation, we can link it, but he had mentioned that it was mutual.
yeah,
You guys had a conversation.
yeah,
Um, I've always been, I don't know if you know Simon Cowell from American Idol. He always rings this phrase in my head that, it's always good to know when to leave the party,
yeah,
you know?
I-
And you guys were at the top. You could have easily gone for another few years and people would have loved you and you would have won and all the things.
yeah,
But, there's something to be said about like when is enough enough? And another thing we discuss a lot in this community is kind of that work-life balance. Why do we need to be a champion for 10 years? Why can't we be a champion for 2 years and then start building our personal
right,
lives and our personal
right,
brands outside of competing?
yeah,
Because competing at that level takes so much maintenance to be sustainable.
yeah,
So you chose after 2 years, you guys had an amazing run.
yeah.
Why, on a personal level for you, did you feel this was the right time?
Well, like I said, it was in the beginning, it was kind of clear, like when we started, I wasn't sure if I even wanted to dance. So I was kind of clear in the beginning that it wasn't going to be for a long time. And I think
Right.
he also was kind of on that page.
Sure.
Um, well, I'm in my late 30s, so like I don't know. I just felt like, you know what? I it doesn't really align with me anymore to be a competitive dancer.
Right.
Um, I love dancing, but the competitive part of it, if I were to go for another few years and really try to push to win, which is a little bit more complicated than just go out and dance well, you know.
Right.
Um,
True story.
so
Yes.
so I don't know. That part of it especially doesn't really align with me. And yeah, you know, I it just felt like now was the right time for us, you know. At least that's how I felt. I felt like if I were to go, it would have to be another year at least. I just didn't know if I had it in me, you know.
I
Because
get it.
physically, like I said in the beginning, I'm not like half-assing things, so I
No,
need to
you're not, girl.
I
No,
need to
you're
be in
not.
the studio practicing, and
Right,
and
right.
it's like it's hard for it's physically demanding, you know. It's really hard to compete on a high level physically, you know, because we're not just competing, we're working. You know, we have to teach all these lessons after practice in
And then
3
practice and
hours,
then go to the
whatever.
competition. Yeah. The
Yes,
hair and makeup. I mean, every time you would come out, you would have a dress that nobody's ever seen before, that like a concept. You had the attention to detail that you guys put in your whole look
that's
as a
all Dawn.
whole. Who is
She
it?
Dawn, Dore.
Dawn,
Yeah, she
Dore.
did all my
Yes.
dresses. I just kind of gave her.
Incredible. Shout out to her. I mean,
Yeah,
but the what some people don't understand that are not in it, the whole thing from A to Z,
yeah,
your brain has to
yeah,
be involved in those decision makings, in those dress on
yeah.
tryouts, and getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do your hair
Non-stop.
and makeup,
It's
all
non-stop.
of it, it just like you said, it's so much more. You're in a new chapter now. How has it felt? It's been how long since you retired now?
Um, what, end of November after Ohio? So three, just over 3 months, like 4 months.
Yeah, still
Done,
very
yeah.
new.
Yeah.
Um, you have so many new endeavors, including this new chapter that you and Andrew have started with Rhythm
Yeah.
Labs, which I want to hear about. How does
Yeah.
it feel to first of all, how have you been feeling? What is the first thing that you've been doing more? A lot of dancers say sleep.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, like, uh, well, I have definitely been just taking it easy, like the fact that you don't have to you know, you don't have a competition this weekend, so you can kind of go for dinner with your friends. You know, you can do things now that,
Yeah,
like, you
yeah.
know, I don't
Simple
have
but
to be in
effective.
that competitive shape in a way. Um, I mean, I've kept really busy though. I'm starting also to like travel a little bit more for work
Mhm.
now, since, you know, that's kind of the evolution. Obviously, you start teaching a little bit more outside of your
Sure,
little,
sure, sure.
um, and yeah, I don't know. I felt like it's still kind of, you know, you know, it's not fully. I haven't fully adapted yet, I guess. I'm
Right. It's
kind of
still
finding,
very new. Yeah.
yeah. But I am, you see, I'm also in school. I'm studying business and marketing. Um,
Okay.
and then I have different projects with my dad, you know, like he's with what he does. He's like he's works in art, so I'm like working with him a little bit
Wow.
now. So yeah, so I'm not fully like, it's not like things have just stopped, and you know, there
No,
are,
but you're able to pursue some other passions and maybe
yes, yeah.
awaken some parts of you that maybe were not able to be
Oh yeah.
thriving when you were on
And
the road all the time.
also, yeah, also things that I mean, I've been thinking about this moment for a long time, you know. It's not like
Sure.
it happened and then,
Right.
uh-oh, what do I do now, you know?
Yeah.
And I
You
feel like,
prepared. And that's important to tell
yeah,
people that it takes preparation to
I
retire
think you have to,
mentally.
yes, you have to make sure, because you have to know that it's going to be a big change. So you have
Yes.
to have things that you can go to that kind
Mhm.
of, you have to find things that you want to do other than this, you know, because
Yes.
life is short, but it's also long. So like there's time for more things, and you know,
That's right.
just dancing, you know. You also have to, it's nice to be able to try something different for once, you know.
Yeah.
see
I think
what,
a lot of dancers feel sometimes like, who am I if I'm not a ballroom dancer?
yeah,
Who am I if I'm not in a sparkly dress
yeah.
or, nice pants on the
And
floor,
I think that,
getting applause,
right.
it's addicting.
Yeah, I think that I had gotten to a place where I was actually excited about that part to figure out who I am when I don't have
Yes.
a competition coming up, or when I'm thinking about like when I do this in a different way, or you know what I mean? Like when you're
Yes.
like, who am I when I have my mind has a little bit more freedom to think about what else there is to do and what I want to do, you know?
Totally.
And I think
Yeah.
it's more to do with how you approach it rather than actually um thinking about what was. You know what I mean? Like you try to think about
Yeah.
w- what can be, you know.
Yes, I love that. Like the unlimited possibilities instead of
Yeah.
like what are you gaining instead of what are you losing?
Yeah. And also sometimes you know how they say like like you have to be bored sometimes in order to be creative, right? So
Yes.
like if you're never allowing yourself these moments of like, oh, okay, what else is there? Then, you know, out of fear or whatever, then how are you ever going to learn more about yourself, you know? So
Preach.
I think, yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. My gosh, we could just end on that right there.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Um, you you're incredible. I've been a huge fan of yours for a very long time. I'm honored to have this conversation with you. I appreciate
Lovely.
seriously, I just appreciate um, the knowledge that you're able to bring to this industry, but also through your story, because everyone's story is different, and every story has a lesson to be learned. And also with you and Andrew, and just that everyone's been such a fan of you guys for a while. To have you both a part of this is I can tell where your journeys are going and how you want to really share what it is that you've learned through this
Yeah.
process. And I felt
Yeah.
like what a better opportunity than to really try to help people in more ways than just dance, because obviously anyone could take a lesson with you and learn
Right.
an
Right.
abundance of things,
Right.
but not everyone gets a chance to have conversations with you like this and to
Yeah.
hear what it is that you feel and how you feel about yourself, and how
Yeah.
you can teach people how to feel about themselves, and that helps their dancing as well. Everything's
Oh, for
interconnected.
sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think there is missing definitely. Well, it's actually nice that you do this because there isn't a lot of this in our industry, but there is this link between the dancer and the person, like what you see on the floor, you know, you, when you are maybe a less experienced dancer and you see somebody else who's more experienced, you think that they have it a one way, you know, like it's easier or what, you know, you don't
Yeah,
really
yeah, yeah, of
understand
course.
sometimes how
You don't
how
know everything that goes into what got them to that
yeah,
point.
yeah. And you know, one thing that I really find maybe now, maybe this point in my life I find interesting is like everybody has a different journey, you know?
Mm,
And sometimes the part of winning or that is not your um that's not your journey. You know, you know what I mean? Like it's a little bit bigger than that, I feel. Like there is this, I think we all have something to learn here in this life, you know, and kind
right.
of finding what that is. And for some people, for a lot of people, I think in our industry, they learn something. They learn like a major lesson through their
Right.
dancing career, whatever that lesson may be, you know, that may
Totally.
be, and that may not be a result thing, or you know what I mean? It may be
I
some,
think, yeah, no. So the way that we put it here is a lot of it is there's more than one way to win,
yes.
right? It doesn't have to
Yeah.
always be Blackpool or nothing.
No.
And
And I agree with that
success
so
is
much.
you should define how you feel successful,
Yeah.
right? How do you define success? I think
Yeah.
when you kind of that compare going back to that comparison, when people are using somebody else's definition of success
Yeah.
that maybe doesn't align with who they are, what they're trying to succeed or achieve.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. And I think there's more, I feel like I've won in so many ways, and I've never won a black pole title.
Yeah.
There's so many ways to win. And I think that's the conversation I think we also
Yeah.
need to be having more of is
Yeah, like where's the growth? Like how
where's
can
the
you grow?
growth?
Like for some people, like a lot of the time, who you are as a person as well is who you are on the floor. So like
Yeah,
the lessons that you learn then as a person can bring something out on the floor that, you
sure.
weren't able to produce before, So it's
Absolutely.
yeah, it's a bigger subject for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's more to it than just the dance.
Yeah.
But we're all here because we love to dance and because dance
Yeah.
is so
I
incredible and it has changed our lives. And no one's saying that we shouldn't be dancing. It's just how do we do it and really be present and enjoy it. And like you said, I kind of want to be young Asta. I want
know.
to, right?
Yeah,
I want to be young
me
Asta with
too.
the
I
pigeon
want to go
toes,
back to that girl.
feeling like I don't care what happens. I just want to dance,
Zero
like
worries. Just
zero worries in the world. That sounds so beautiful. And I think a lot of people would resonate with that.
yeah,
And I think that's what we're trying to do is trying to help people understand that, like, do all the things, be all the things, but, all the pressure that we put on ourselves, the anxiety, the
yeah,
imposter syndrome, the body image issues,
yeah,
all
yeah.
these things, um, they're going to come up. How do
A
we,
100%. But that's a part of the journey.
that's a part of the
Like
journey.
that's a part of the lessons
Yep.
we need to learn, because when we are, like I said, like you were saying, when you're a little kid and you don't know anything and you just enjoy it, it's great. You can't be that forever. You
No, no, no.
have
You have
to.
to start to
The
push in
beauty is
intentional ways.
the
Right.
beauty is to go through the whole
Right.
experience of like, oh, this brought me down. This is hard. You go through
Yes.
all these,
Totally.
stages, and it makes you the person, that you the best version of you,
Absolutely.
once you've gone through it all.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're amazing. For those of you who want to know more about Asta and her journey, please comment on this video, comment in our private inner circle group. The way to join this community is through our private membership. It's called the Inner Circle. It is a monthly subscription. We have newsletters, which Asta is featured in. That's why you're listening to this podcast right now. We have licensed practitioners that are here to help you. We do live calls with our practitioners, 2 to 3 a month, every month in our community. We have wellness resources, tools, all kinds of things to help you on this journey to being the best version of yourself, dancer and non-dancer, whatever it is you choose to be. And Asta is here to share her testimony in that when we all come together and help each other, like just like when you started, you had such a support, you still have that
Yeah,
support group, and we're all here to be a part of your support group. So thank you, Asta, for being here.
it was
It's
a
just
pleasure. It was so nice to talk to you.
absolutely such an honor. And like I said, for those of you who want to join, we've got the link in the show notes, and we're here to help you. So come on down and join the movement.